عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. نرحب بكم جميعا. جمعية الكيميائيين البحرينية ترحب بكم جميعا في هذه المحاضرة العلمية بعنوان الإدارة المستدامة للمخلفات الصلبة من تقديم الدكتورة سمية يوسف حسن. راح أعطي تعريف بسيط عن الدكتورة سمية يوسف قبل ما أسلم لها الميكروفون. تعريف سريع: الدكتورة سمية يوسف حسن رئيسة قسم الموارد الطبيعية والبيئة بجامعة الخليج العربي، أستاذ الهندسة البيئية المساعد بكلية الدراسات العليا بجامعة الخليج العربي، حاصل على الدكتوراه في مجال الهندسة البيئية من جامعة وورك بالمملكة المتحدة، الماجستير في الإدارة البيئية من جامعة الخليج العربي، دبلوم دراسات عليا في الكيمياء الحيوية الخاصة بالتغذية من الكلية العليا للزراعة في جامعة هوكايدو اليابان، وحاصل على البكالوريوس في علوم الحياة من كلية العلوم بجامعة البحرين. دكتورة سمية يوسف مهتمة بمجال استدامة الموارد والاقتصاد الدائري واستراتيجيات الإدارة المستدامة للمخلفات وإنتاج الطاقة منها، ولها العديد من البحوث والدراسات والمشاركات المتعددة في المؤتمرات العلمية الدولية والمحلية. اختارها برنامج الأمم المتحدة للبيئة لتكون ممثلة لمنطقة غرب آسيا وعضواً في المجموعة الاستشارية العالمية لمبادرة أكاديمية أنماط الحياة المستدامة للشباب ومقرها باريس، وهي مستشار دولي. تصدر اسمها قائمة السيدات اللاتي حققن إنجازات قيمة في مجال العلوم والتكنولوجيا من قبل وكالة أنباء المرأة، حيث صنفت ضمن أكثر 3 نساء مؤثرات في الشرق الأوسط في مجال العلوم والتكنولوجيا، حاصلة على جائزة المرأة الباحثة المتفوقة في الهندسة البيئية والاستدامة من قبل منظمة فينوس العالمية لمرتين، كما فازت بجائزة لوريال اليونسكو الدولية. نرحب فيك دكتورة سمية في هذه الأمسية العلمية الكيميائية البيئية، وحبيت بس أنوه لنقطتين قبل لا نبدأ. إن اللي يحب شهادة حضور لهذه المحاضرة القيمة يكتب اسمه في الشات بحيث يكون اسمه واضح، وإن شاء الله راح نتواصل معكم بعد المحاضرة ونبعث لكم شهادة الحضور عبر الإيميل، فتذكر اسمك بوضوح وإيميلك بوضوح. النقطة الثانية بيكون في فقرة بسيطة للأسئلة، يعني إحنا أمسيتنا الليلة إن شاء الله حدود الساعة. بعد ما تخلص الدكتور إن شاء الله راح نفتح المجال للأسئلة، اللي عنده سؤال يكتب في الشات وإن شاء الله راح نلقيه على الدكتورة. بس ملاحظة دكتورة سمية، إذا وصلتين ل 40 دقيقة راح أنبهش عشان تكون بس في صورة أن الوقت وين وصلنا.
إن شاء الله.
نسلم الميكروفون لك، تفضل يا دكتور.
شكرا لك أستاذ حسين الحلواتي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أشكر الجمعية الكيميائيين البحرينية تنظيم الندوة المهمة حقيقة كجزء من سلسلة ندوات معنية بالمواضيع المهمة في مجال الاستدامة والتنمية المستدامة وغيرها من الأمور اللي تهم البيئة حقيقة وتساهم في التنمية الحضرية. ما أعرف إذا يعني يمكن نتكلم باللغة الإنجليزية أفضل، يمكن بعض الحضور يفضلون اللغة الإنجليزية، بنتكلم باللغتين إن شاء الله. Your honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am pleased today to welcome you in this important webinar, which comes at a time when the world is going through a critical period and face many challenges, especially in the environmental aspect and typically in waste management, which represents one of the most prominent of these challenges, as the problem of climate change has emerged as a global issue, which it requires international action to unify efforts aimed at reducing international greenhouse gas emissions that cause global warming and climate change, which directly affects our sustainability and life on Earth and health as well. Today, I'm going to talk about the sustainable solid waste management because it's actually raised as one of the most important challenges in our region, especially in the Gulf region, and specifically for the Kingdom of Bahrain. As we know that the rapid urban development and population growth resulted in a huge increase in waste generation, and our country was classified as one of the top waste generators worldwide, actually. Even the GCC countries are classified as the most waste generators among countries in the world. Waste is burden on development and associated with high management costs and vast carbon footprint. And it is one of the major challenges, as we have mentioned now, of urban cities around the world. Hence, understanding the environmental pollution and waste management is essential. We need innovative solution to manage waste in a manner that adheres to environmental and economic and social constraints. As we know that sustainable waste management system should be based on technically sound approaches to eliminate or minimize public health hazards while maintaining environmental quality, cost affordability, and public satisfaction. Let's summarize the waste management or the waste problem. It's the main drivers to this problem is the increase in economic and developmental activities that leads to an increase in waste generation. Solid waste typically poses a serious threat to the sustainability of the cities worldwide, and the importance of implementing of sustainable waste management strategy is important to mitigate the harmful impacts on all the sustainability pillars, which is social, economic, and environmental pillars. Then we can see that the transforming to circular economy by investing in green technologies that conserve the resources and has maximum benefits on environment, economy, and society. First of all, we have to know what is waste, how we can decide that this item is considered a waste. Waste is any unwanted or unusable materials, and they are any substances which are discarded after primary use, or it is worthless and defective and of no use, and it is considered as a lost resource. I don't like the term of waste. We have to replace it with a lost resource, because actually waste is considered as a lost resource and renewable resource for another manufacturers, or raw materials for another manufacturers. It can be solid, liquid, or sludge. So what is waste management now? Waste management is all activities and actions required to manage waste from its generation to its final disposal, which includes collection, transportation, and treatment and disposal of waste, together with monitoring and regulation. And waste management should be called a resource management, as we have mentioned now. Here in this chart, I have summarized or collected all the solid waste from different sources to classify them in this chart. They are mainly classified into non-hazardous and hazardous. So under each category of these categories, the non-hazardous may include some industrial waste and municipal waste, and the hazardous includes the majority of industrial waste, radioactive, and medical waste. The municipal waste here can be classified into domestic, construction and demolition, commercial, and agricultural. And of course, the domestic waste represent the majority of municipal multiple solid waste in our region and worldwide as well, which can be classified itself into organic and inorganic. The organic waste or organic portion of the domestic waste can include all of these items: food waste, paper, cardboard, animals, wood, plastic, textile, rubber, oil and grease. And the inorganic portion can include the glass and metals. Of course, commercial waste can include also both categories, or can be organic or inorganic. Even the industrial waste here, which is classified as non-hazardous, can also include the organic and inorganic, because within the industries, there are some activities that include some domestic activities, let's say like maybe the restaurants within the industries, the commercial waste of the paper, the office waste, for example, which are considered non-hazardous. In this slide, we are showing the trends in solid waste management globally. So let's have an overview about the amount of waste which is generated worldwide and annually. The world generates around 2.01 billion tons of solid waste annually, and global waste is expected to grow to 3.4 billion tons by 2050. There is a positive correlation between waste generation and income level. So in this chart, we can see that the projected waste generation by region in millions of tons per year. We can see here the areas. We can see that the East Asia and Pacific has the highest waste generation rate, millions of tons per year, even from 2016 until 2050 as well. Then South Asia come in the second place, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Europe and Central Asia. Then we have the other areas. So waste composition, as we have mentioned now, differs across income levels, reflecting varied patterns of consumption. So how we can translate this? We can say that high-income countries generate less food and green waste, which is less than 30%, and more dry waste that could be recycled, including plastic, paper, cardboard, metal, and glass. While the middle and low-income countries generate mostly food and green waste, with a percentage of higher than 57%. While in low-income countries, materials that could be recycled account only 20% of the waste stream. So this is an indicator that the waste generation or the consumption habits are directly related to the waste generation rate, and even the life level and lifestyle. And while this slide can show that the global waste composition and percentage, we can see that the majority of the waste composition globally is food and green waste, with a percentage of 44%. So most of our waste is biodegradable, let's say, while the second place is 17%, which is the paper and cardboard. Then we have the others, including the textile, furniture, or others. We can also observe here that plastic has a high percentage as well, which is a 12%. And we have other components here. So let's emphasize here the sustainable development and waste management. The sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the needs of a future generation to meet their own needs while considering the three pillars, the environmental, social, and economic aspects. So the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, cannot be met unless waste management is addressed as a priority. Failing economic models treat resources as if they were non-depleted, unfortunately, and consumption patterns need to change, therefore. So, having an overview of the sustainable development goals that I'm sure that you are all familiar with, we can see the 17 goals represent the sustainable development goals, and the waste management actually belongs mostly to this issue represents the core of the sustainable development goals actually, and representing the goal number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. So most of the goals are interrelated somehow, but by realizing this, the goal number 12, we can achieve the other goals as well. Let's have an example. If we, for example, consider to reduce the food waste, for example, by having sustainable consumption habits, or we change the behavior, we are in the same time going to solve or realize goal number 1, for example, with no poverty and no hunger as well. With, zero hunger with goal number 2 as well. This is one of the examples. And of course, we are trying to realize as well for example, let's say the food security worldwide. In this figure, we can see that the CO2 concentration parts per million here from 1760 until 2020, we can see the increase of CO2 globally from the pre-industrial period until now. We can see the increase by 50%, which is a negative indicator that we have to, it is an alarming actually, to have like sustainable action toward reducing these greenhouse gases represented by the CO2 emission. While this figure can explain the sectors, the global greenhouse gas emissions by sector, we can observe here that the highest sector that is emitting the greenhouse gas is the energy sector with 73.2%. And the second place is the agriculture and forestry and land use. Then the waste sector actually contributes by 3.2%, which is maybe not considered high compared to the energy. But, and even the industry has high by 5.2%, but still we can, these are all correlated with each other and interrelated. And we can see now the waste to energy habits or practices or technologies can solve part of this problem. So when we are talking about a sustainable waste management, we are talking about the waste management hierarchy. What is the waste management hierarchy? It is a hierarchy that has some priorities represented by the pyramid that has the biggest priority on the top with avoidance and prevention and reduction criteria or practices. So always the practices, the most preferred practice or step toward the waste management or sustainable waste management is always the avoidance or the avoidance or prevention from the source. So don't generate waste at all. Then in the second place, we can see the reduction of waste. So generate lower waste by, actually, when we are talking about the avoidance or prevention or reduction, here it is directly related to changing the behavior of consumption and going to a more sustainable consumption by changing our behavior and having a smart purchasing, for example, practices. And it needs high awareness towards the sustainability of the waste management practices. Then we have the reuse. The reuse is you are, rather than throwing out whatever you have end of use, and you have item or that you don't need, rather than getting rid of it, reuse it in another way that can be beneficial to you or others. So reuse the items in its original form. And recycling is the reprocess the item into a new product by converting it into another product that has another purpose. Then recovery. Recovery is another step of extracting materials or energy from waste. So all the waste to energy practices or technologies fall under the recovery step here. And finally, the disposal, which is the landfill after hazard waste removal. So this is the most sustainable step or hierarchy that can have to be followed for sustainable waste management. Actually, unfortunately, in our country or in the region, in the Gulf region maybe, and most of the developing countries they are jumping just here, straightforward, and they have this one in the top and not in the bottom. So they have the disposal by 100%, and they don't have, or they lack the policies for avoidance and prevention or reduction, and even the reusing, recycling technologies or businesses as well. They lack even the waste to energy facilities. So they just dump all the waste in the landfills. Mentioning this again, the hierarchy with more details, we can see here the avoidance and waste minimization, as we said, and recycling and reuse of materials, which are the most prioritized here in the hierarchy. Then we can move to the waste to energy and co-processing of waste by using some specific technology to have the energy from waste, using like incineration, chemical and physical pre-treatment of waste to prepare it for having the energy at the end. We have other technologies like the anaerobic digestion, for example, and the thermochemical technologies, which are, for example, we have the pyrolysis, gasification, and we have even the pre-treatment, like preparing the refuse-derived fuel using the RDF as a source of energy for the combustible material after segregating them from the source. And here we can see the landfilling here at the end, and unmanaged waste, of course. Sometimes we have some small portion after extracting all the waste or recycling all of the waste items, we still have maybe some to be dumped in the landfill. Or sometimes there is zero waste to the landfill, like it is the case in Singapore. So explaining some of the technologies that can be used for sustainable waste management. Actually, the waste management technologies are classified mainly into three main categories, which are the physical conversion technologies, bioconversion technologies, and thermochemical conversion technologies. The physical conversion technologies are represented here by the RDF, the refuse-derived fuel. The bioconversion technology is, for example, the anaerobic digestion. Of course, we have the fermentation as well. The thermochemical conversion technologies like the combustion or direct combustion, which is the incineration, and gasification and pyrolysis as well. And we have the composting for the organic portion of the waste or the solid waste to have the compost at the end. So we have waste to energy technologies in addition to the composting. So going back to this technology, actually, I have studied the feasibility of these all 6 technologies for the Bahraini community. And I found that some technologies were the most feasible solutions for to manage the organic portion of domestic waste in Bahrain. The most feasible ones were the anaerobic digestion and the combustion or incineration. Based on 3 major criteria, I have calculated or measured the parameters for like full characterization, chemical characterization of the organic portion of household waste in Bahrain, represented by Muharraq city as the area of study. And we have studied also, we calculated also the cost-benefit analysis. We studied the economic feasibility of these technologies for Bahrain community, and even the social criteria by having a social study to explore the enablers and barriers towards the adoption of these technologies in the Bahraini community. In addition to another social study represented by measuring the public awareness towards the adoption of these technologies, or in general, the green technologies of waste management. And we have very interesting results. We will share them with you later. Actually, some technologies were more feasible in terms of, based on the 3 criteria. The anaerobic digestion was very recommended with having segregation at source practice. We have to reform the policies. We have to have the sustainable strategy for waste management to succeed the adoption of this technology. Even the incineration, we have to have the segregation at source as well for all the components to have the combustible separated from the source. Now, going to another term, which is the circular economy. What is the circular economy? Actually, the current industrial and consumption model, which we are dealing with in our life currently, is the linear model. The linear model is based on the concept of taking, making, using, and disposing. So we don't have any practice of reusing of the materials that we take from the beginning. This is the linear model, which is considered not sustainable, which put pressure on the supply of raw materials and therefore the environment and society and the economy as well. Then the urgent need to divert into a circular economy, which is based on take, make, use, and recycle, which is the circular economy. Sustainable development requires disruptive changes in the way our societies and businesses are organized, actually. Then the circular economy offers a new chance of innovation and integration between natural ecosystems, businesses, our daily lives, and waste management as well. So, for example, it replaces the end-of-life concept with restoration, shifts towards the use of renewable energy, eliminates the use of toxic chemicals, which impair reuse and return to the biosphere, and aims for the elimination also of waste through the superior design of materials, products, systems, and business models. So it will directly contribute to realize the sustainable development goals in any country through enhancement of consumption patterns, sustainable production, conserving natural resources, and lower the generation of waste. So we can see this figure explaining in a simple way the circular economy from the source to the landfill here. This is the linear model: source, produce, sell, use, then go to the landfill. This is the linear model, while the circular economy has the reuse and recycle, repair, reuse, refurbish, recycle in each step of these supply chain stages. As I have mentioned that I have conducted a social study to explore the general barriers to waste management technologies adoption in Bahraini society, and I found that there are many let's say constraints towards the adoption or successful adoption of this technology that we have mentioned, the 6 technologies. So we had 6 main themes of these barriers. Actually, they were social barriers, political, economic, technical, managerial, and environmental. And the main titles under the social, main barriers under the social barriers were mostly the public awareness, let's say the moral, culture, and society experience with the technology itself. The political, represented by the need to governmental support of these technologies and investments, and governmental policy and strategy availability by having the sustainable and that is supportive strategy and sustainable strategy for waste management in the country. And the economic barriers were the feasibility of these projects and having incentives to investment, financial support, and the availability of the market of the end products. Actually, because some technologies end up with some products that has maybe no market, which represent a main barrier. Technical, let's say, segregation at source, the lack of segregation at source, of course, and the infrastructure, and the harvesting time for some technologies like anaerobic digestion, efficiency, the complexity of the technology, and the technology availability in the region. And even the need to highly skilled and trained manpower and the labor, the availability of the labor for segregation, while the environmental barriers were the environmental impact risk and air quality and fertilizer toxicity. These were just some fears that might be not exist as well, because most of the state of the art technologies has the very controllable technologies that can lead to zero waste or zero emission and 100% safe to environment. So, we need, what we need in this stage? We need incentives to investment in green technologies. We need innovation or innovative business models. We need national capacity building. And we need also markets for the end products, centralization of waste management responsibility. Actually, we need one umbrella for all sectors that are stakeholders of the waste management sector, that to work under one authority to coordinate their work between each other, which affects the quality of their work and management. Coordination between all stakeholders as well. We need privatization of waste management sector and the source segregation of waste. I have mentioned here a specific topic about food waste status, because actually West Asia, specifically the GCC country, have the highest rate of waste generation in the world, reaching 4 kilograms per day. Imagine we are producing almost 4 kilograms per day per person. Bahrain is classified as the highest rate of food waste in the Arab world and the fourth globally, and based on the UNEP or UNEP index, food waste index, which was published recently. This reflects the lack of awareness and the unsustainable patterns of consumption and production in the society, which requires emergency measures and procedures to change the consumption pattern. Changing consumption patterns affect the loss and waste of food and other resources. And when resources are wasted, actually we are wasting energy, we are wasting other resources that is entered or contributed in the item production, which includes the energy. We are wasting water, wasting efforts and working hours, and waste of all other resources used in the production of these goods. Let's take an example here. Actually, wasting of one apple, let's say as an example, if we throw an apple to the trash for any reason, maybe we don't like its color, we spotted that like changing in color, or for any reason, if we throw out this apple, we are wasting 70 liters of water by this decision, just to imagine. And when we are throwing out 1 kilo of beef, for example, we are wasting 15,000 liters of water, just for, as an example. So huge amounts of other resources are wasted with wasting these items, especially with waste. So food production cost, this is the like the upstream and the downstream of the food production. And we have all these resources contributed to the food production: water, land, energy, labor and capital, and even in each stage, greenhouse gas emissions. And there is an environmental cost as well. So we have to think 100 times before throwing out the food waste, especially. So let's talk about Bahrain. Bahrain municipal solid waste overview. We can see the annual generation rate until 2020. In the last 2 decades, we can see the annual generation rate. The Kingdom of Bahrain, it reached it reached 2,500,000 tons in 2018. But it's good that we can see the decline in 2020, because actually the construction and demolition waste here, which is considered one of the main components of the municipal solid waste, was recycled by 50%, which is a good thing. It was used for reclamation currently, so it drops into 1,300,000 in 2020. Again, let's see the status of food waste in Bahrain. Actually, let's return back to this. We can see that the total municipal solid waste reached almost 2 million tons per year. 600,000 ton per year is only biodegradable waste. And the majority of the domestic waste is food waste. As per the most recent report, the UNEP Food Waste Index Report 2021 has classified Bahrain as top highest food waste per capita among Arab countries, with an annual rate of 132 kilograms per capita. Therefore, food waste portion of domestic waste is equal to 230,000 tons per year. Imagine we have like 200 is very high actually for a small country like Bahrain. While the total domestic waste in 2020 is almost 600,000 tons, food waste represents 41%, almost half of it is, half of the domestic waste is food waste. As per my study about the feasibility of using anaerobic digestion to manage the biodegradable waste in Bahrain, I have found that by estimation, of course, that by recovering all of these biodegradable waste in the Kingdom of Bahrain, we can generate 213.3 gigawatt hour, which equals 2% of the current total power generation in Bahrain, the demand. So even the electricity revenues can reach 1.62 million BD, and we can save 4.5 million from the waste dumping budget. Actually, the waste dumping budget in Bahrain reached 17 million BD annually, just to collect and dump the waste in the landfill. Going back to the incineration technology, we have 500,000 tons per year combustible waste, while the calorific value measured is, I have measured it in the lab, and I found that it reached 18.5 megajoule per kilogram, which is very, let's say, promising, and it's high calorific value, which is good for incineration in this case. Estimated to produce using the 18.5 megajoule per kilogram, and going back to the amount, the annual amount of waste that we are generating in Bahrain, it is estimated to produce about 3,700 gigawatt hour per year, which represents about 20%, almost 15 to 20% of the total annual power generation in Bahrain, and meet the target of sustainable energy, or sustainable energy authority of waste to energy targets.
مسامحة دكتورة, وصلنا another 5 minutes.
Okay, now I'll finish, inshallah. So what are priorities for food waste management? We can, the reduction and prevention at source via awareness, of course, consumption behavior change. We need to change our behavior at all levels, and we have positive attitudes. We have to know how do we see food and value of food, morals and attitude, smart purchasing by rethinking, buying what you need. And we have smart cooking methods as well. Actually, small changes matters a lot. Food reuse, like in creative and innovative uses of food, food recycle by composting and anaerobic digestion, for example, food donation and food banks as well. Education, the role of academia with capacity building, research, and the governmental policies as well in terms of incentives and penalties like pay as you throw. So
أعتقد أن انقطع البث دكتورة، بس لحظات نشوف دكتور عبد الواحد. دكتور سمية، أعتقد انقطع البث من عندك. إذا تسوين شير للبرزنتيشن مرة ثانية. وصوتش ميوت، صار الميكروفون ميوت.
سوري.
أيوه تمام. بس سوي شير مرة ثانية للبرزنتيشن. تمام.
Okay. So small changes in our behavior matters, as we have mentioned now. We have to differentiate and buy whatever we need, not whatever we want. And reuse food and innovate in cooking, donate food compost at home. Remember, we eat to live and not live to eat. So capacity building, recently we have launched the professional diploma in waste management in the Arabian Gulf University, which aims actually to build the capacity towards sustainable waste management. And that will serve the region, the West Asia and GCC region in terms of building capacity in waste management towards the goal number 12 specifically, which is very important step towards preparing the floor to convert the society into sustainable society. So global waste markets, let's just mention the number because maybe time is not enough. The global waste management market was valued about almost 383 billion in 2020, and will be increased by 5% in 2026. Even industrial waste global market is so high. There is too much investment, and the awareness towards the sustainable waste management is increasing. So we can see that increase in the global industrial waste management market here in these years, as it's mentioned here. And always remember the 9 R's hierarchy: rethink, refuse, reduce, reuse, regift, repair, rent, recycle, and at the end, rot. Thank you very much.
شكرا جزيلا دكتورة سمية على هذه المحاضرة المميزة والمليئة بالمعلومات الجيدة والممتازة. في بعض الملاحظات في الشات بس راح أقرأها. في كومنت من زكريا شبر يقول: نشكركم على هذا التنظيم لهذه الورشة والتي كنا ننتظرها. في كومنت ثاني من دكتور صادق العلوي من جامعة البحرين قسم الكيمياء. He said, totally agree with you, doctor. Obviously, landfill method of disposal has many limitations. Landfill are likely to cause air, water, and land pollution in spite of utmost caretaking. في كومنت ثانية بعد من الأخ يونس. He's saying, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Sumaya, for this very interesting conference regarding the barriers for the sustainable waste management. I believe one of the most important barrier is the financial one. عندك تعليق على آخر comments دكتورة عن الفاينانشال؟
سوري بس مرة ثانية عفوا ما سمعتك.
يقول the most important barrier is the financial barrier.
Exactly. يعني الحين يمكن maybe recently the banking sector and financial sector has the awareness towards the sustainable financing to finance the green projects. وفي توجه يعني الحمد لله في توجه إيجابي من قبل حتى القطاع البنكي والمالي تجاه أهداف التنمية المستدامة. بس تحتاج يعني تشجيع وكولابوريشن يعني شراكات في هالخصوص على أساس أنه يتم عمليات التمويل بشكل سلس.
تمام. في سؤال أو ملاحظة من الأخت فاطمة السيسي. Doctor, how urgent do you think we have to apply waste to energy technology in Bahrain? In other words, how bad landfills comparing to waste technology respecting to our economy?
Actually, by dumping the waste in the landfills, we are wasting. We have lost opportunities. We have big opportunities in recovering waste and recycling waste. We can establish manufacturers to new industries that can be based on the waste materials. We can have banks of materials, of raw materials. We can have, we can create jobs for and even solve the unemployment social problem through these projects as well. In addition to have a new branch of an economy and diversifying our economy through these projects. And it's very urgent actually, because our landfill, unfortunately, it reached its lifetime. It is I think since 4 years ago, and no chance to dump more. And I hope that we can go forward the waste to energy as soon as possible, because they are very promising projects and can even diversify the renewable energy resources as well in the country.
الأخت أميرة القلاف, she want to ask verbally. دكتور عبد الواحد, إذا عندك مجال تفتح المايك للأخت أميرة القطان, sorry, not القلاف, القطان.
Yes, shall I ask, or Dr. Abdul Wahid will ask before me?
تفضل.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussein, and thank you very much, Dr. Sumaya, for this fruitful webinar, really. I'm actually doing a research at the moment. I'm a PhD student or researcher. It was really interesting for me to have all those information as general information before I start my research just within, let's say, a few weeks from now. You have mentioned that circular economy in one of the slides, you said that it will directly contribute to realize the sustainable development goals in any country through a number of ways. I think that you have mentioned already some of the things that I want to ask. I think attendee, colleague Fatima Sisi, and she asked almost quite the same of the things that I was about to ask. But I need to know, what are the ways that you recommend in case of Bahrain situation? As you know, lowering waste generation in comparison to culture and increasing population is very difficult, and it will take time. Most of the solutions that you have mentioned are long-term solutions. We really need urgent solutions, as you mentioned, but what are they? And how to fortify and engage the role of the private sector from an urgent manner. And thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Amira. Actually, maybe you mentioned that we have what is the priority now as a short-term solution. Fortunately, that the government is aware about the situation, the urgent situation that we have to follow now to avoid the consequence, the negative consequences on our community and the sustainability of our community, represented by the lack of sustainable national strategy of waste management. And they started to put, actually, there is a strategy now, a sustainable strategy or national strategy of waste management that includes and considered all of these technologies and best practices towards having the sustainable solid waste management in the country. But it needs to be approved finally and to start the implementation. And at the meantime, we need, as I have mentioned, the capacity building and raise the awareness. Actually, based on my study on the measurement of public awareness, it showed that our community is aware, and they have the awareness towards these practices. They will be very collaborative in terms of segregation at source, and will be very collaborative to succeed the implementation or adoption of this technology in the future. And we have to have clear plan and collaboration between all the parties, especially the public-private partnership. We need to facilitate these partnerships towards having a successful implementation of these projects in the future.
تمام دكتور رفي. Somebody is raising his hand but the name is strange. But دكتور عبد الواحد إذا ممكن تفتح المايك.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very useful. And we want to ask, yeah, you mentioned earlier that Bahrain landfill has reached its capacity, right?
Yes.
And so yeah, we understand correctly that do you have some solution for it? Like any ideas how you're gonna resolve this problem?
Actually, yes. That's it? Okay. Actually, I have just mentioned that the government has some solutions to solve the problem by issuing currently or recently the sustainable waste management or national waste management strategy and start to implement it. It needs some cooperation between all the stakeholders to be contributed to succeed the implementation of this strategy. But I hope that the plan of having another landfill will not be a choice for the country. Inshallah, no, yani.
Yes, yes. So that's the point. So, and our concern is, are you open for any collaborations and any offers, suggestions?
Yes, but maybe this question can be forwarded to the decision makers because they can maybe answer you.
We will be very happy if it will be forwarded to the decision maker. If someone will, if someone is ready to listen.
I'm not sure if anyone can answer your question here from the government sector, sectors. But yes, actually they are putting some plans. They are planning for sustainable practices and projects, and they have started actually from the Sustainable Energy Authority has the waste to energy as main target of their strategy to be achieved in the few coming years. And yeah, we hope that we have these projects in reality.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Just to give others also a chance to ask, because there is maybe 2 to 3 questions. There is one question from Hassan Adrazi. Dr. Sumaya, is it feasible to incinerate solid waste when it is caloric value is around 19 mg?
Of course, 19 megajoule is very high because actually the natural gas is about 25 megajoule per kilogram. So I think it is one of the highest. It's high. It's considered a fuel maybe for incineration, and yeah, it can be feasible as well.
Yeah, there is one comment from Zakiya Shubbar. I believe that achieving sustainable development goals takes time, and that temporary solutions do not provide a radical solution. And we need to change the culture of society in terms of changing consumer behavior.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
We have to change the mentality, the behavior. We have to raise the awareness through all the channels, the social media, the TV channels, newspapers, webinars. Maybe this webinar is one of them. And we have to prepare ourselves to move to a more sustainable society, starting from the maybe solid waste management. It is very important to have these practices and introduce the sustainable lifestyle in our daily life, in everything starting from planning our list for purchasing, starting from ourselves inside our houses, even while you are eating your meals, just control whatever you consume at home, then to avoid having the waste.
تمام دكتورة. في طلب من بعض الحضور إن they want the material of your presentation.
Sure, I'll send it to you, Ustad Hussein. I'll send it to you to forward it to all the participants.
ممتاز. في كان واحد شهاب رفع ايده وبعدين اختفى، ما اشوفه في المرة الثانية في الشات. إذا كنت موجود أستاذ حسن شهاب أعتقد، ما أشوفه موجود. في عندنا آخر سؤال دكتورة، آخر سؤال. طبعا باقي الكومنت صراحة كلهم يشيدون بالمحاضرة وبالماتيريال وبالأفكار الجميلة اللي طرحتينها. السؤال يقول يعني شنو موقع البحرين حاليا في solid waste management? Are we behind? Are we considered one of the يعني good countries in waste management? I'm speaking not about the food, about the waste management. I mean the solid management, solid itself.
Actually يعني البحرين حالها حال يعني دول الخليج ربما والدول العربية. يعني إحنا عندنا the only waste management practice is the landfill and dumping. ولكن يعني هناك بعض الممارسات، هناك بعض يعني يمكن تحركات مؤخراً الإيجابية، مثل افتتاح ربما يمكن مصنع كراون، إذا سمعتوا عنه، كراون لتدوير المخلفات، هو موجود خلف مصنع بابكو. ربما تعرف عنه أستاذ حسين، وهو يجمع المخلفات يعني حتى الصناعية، يعني حتى الناتج من الألمنيوم، عمليات التصنيع، بس مجرد للتصدير. هو ليس يمكن يعني ريسايكلينج بالمعنى اللي يعني نفهمه، هو يجهزون يعني المادة للتصدير، ولكن تجميعها compacted and exported. فهي فقط يعني هي بعد تعتبر على الأقل يعني خطوة إيجابية تجاه يعني الوعي بأهمية الريسايكلينج في المجتمع. وأخيراً أيضاً يعني كخطوة جداً إيجابية قامت مملكة البحرين يعني بالاستثمار في المشروع الكومبوستينج وتخصيص أرض في هورة عالي، أرض يعني كبيرة يعني عمليات التسميد، تحويل المخلفات القابلة للتسميد العضوية إلى سماد. مساحات كثيرة تم تخصيصها لهاي المشروع يعني، وهاي الشيء إيجابي. طبعاً هو ليس حل جذري، إحنا ما نتكلم عن حلول جذرية، ولكن هي خطوات ربما نحو الحل الجذري إن شاء الله قريباً.
إن شاء الله. في آخر كومنتس بس في أحد من أعتقد من روسيا يعني. We have a Russian scientist here who would like to tell more about the new technologies for the waste management. If he's here, يعني we'll give him 2 minutes, but I don't see. I have a Russian name in the,
yes.
in the participant.
You are welcome from Russia.
But if he's here, please share with us. Otherwise, we'll close the session because we complete everything. ما أشوف موجود صراحة. يمكن just a comment. كرة فعيل. Yeah, please. دكتور عبد الواحد أعطي المايك حق الأخ الروسي the Russian. The Russian scientist, please, you can unmute yourself and try. دكتور عبد الواحد معنا؟ Yeah. Yes, dear.
Okay, yes, thank you. So yeah,
Yes.
as we mentioned previously,
Yes.
I will translate. Hello.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Но я давно занимаюсь технологией, изучением технологий по переработке твердых бытовых отходов.
He's doing the solid waste management. He's saying for a long time already.
В настоящее время у нас разработана технология полностью переработки санации свалок, тела свалок.
And so currently we have the technology for the sanitation of solid waste.
И глубокая переработка бытового мусора, который свозится в настоящее время.
And the deep recycling of the daily waste, which is going to all landfills now.
Управляемым пиролизом бескислородным.
Which is managed by the pyrolysis, oxygen-free pyrolysis.
Эта технология предусматривает бескислородная переработка, получение синтез газа.
So this technology implies synthesis of the gas as the final product, instead of some other particles, which is harmful.
Это полная стопроцентная переработка.
It's the entire 100% of recycling.
Не требует захоронения продукта переработки. Это полностью переработанный продукт, который используется в дальнейшей технологии строительства. ЗОЛА.
So it's entirely recycles all the landfill, like up to 100%. And as a result, you will have the gas and the ash.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your participation. If there is a comment from Dr. Sumaya.
Yes, thank you very much from Russia to present your the technology that you provide, which is the pyrolysis. Actually, pyrolysis considers one of the most important thermochemical conversion technologies to manage waste. Actually, it is the combustion, the absence of oxygen to produce end products, as you have mentioned, like maybe biochars, oils, and others, beside the energy as well, which is very promising technology as well. So we hope that we can achieve one of these technologies in Bahrain soon. Actually, we have one planned is in Khalij Tubli currently, actually by a company to deal with the sludge or the sewage sludge, to treat it and to prevent the odors exist in Khalij Tubli currently, but I'm not sure if it is operated yet or not. But there is attention towards pyrolysis by the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. We would like to discuss further.
Thank you. You are welcome, dear. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other question? This is golden opportunity. في حد رفع ايده بس ما اشوف رد نزل ايده مرة ثانية. So I would like to thank you very much for this fruitful presentation, and شكرا جزيلا للمعلومات الصراحة، الأفكار الجميلة اللي طرحتينها، يعني صراحة أفكار رائعة. وأفضل فكرة عجبتني يعني عن مستويات الفود في البحرين، ونحن ماخذين الكأس يعني في الفود ويست يعني.
بالضبط.
ماخذين رافعين الكأس يعني. which needs some يعني work from everybody, all the stakeholders, society and government, everybody. شكرا جزيلا ويعطيكم العافية، واستمتعنا بهذه المحاضرة القيمة. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام. شكرا جزيلا للجميع، شكرا على تنظيم المحاضرة وإعطاء الفرصة لنشر الوعي تجاه Sustainable Solid Waste Management في المجتمع، وشكرا لدوركم أيضا كجمعية الكيميائيين البحرينية تجاه يعني هاي بالعكس يعني جهودكم مقدرة كثيرا، ويعطيكم العافية، وشكرا لجميع الحاضرين.
شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا. مع السلامة.